Hi, and welcome to this week's Business Updates with me, Michael Hardy. So we're going to talk this week about growth and your plans for growth, because we're all looking for growth in our businesses, aren't we? But are we aware of its implications? Here's a great example where electric cars are growing exponentially in the car market, and obviously with the focus of government support will become the dominant car of the future. And yet the ability to charge these cars, the ability to keep them on the road for the full journey is getting harder and harder, because more cars means more electrical charging points, and yet there aren't enough. So when you're running a business, not just thinking about the growth that you're looking for next week, next month, even next year, but what should the business shape look like? What charging points do you need along your journey to make sure you can keep with the growth? Because the danger that we have with the cars that are on our roads now is they're not able to keep motoring, not because we're out of diesel, because there aren't enough charging points. And what impact does that have on the business of cars? But what would that have on your business if you haven't got enough people, if you haven't got enough equipment, if you can't source the right raw materials to meet the growth that you're trying to achieve? So growth has implications, and are you managing it? Inflation, I've talked a lot about inflation, and there is a danger that the inflationary numbers get talked up and hyped up. And of course, news channels love to talk about growing inflation. We're now at 5.5%, growing from 5.4%. Interest rates have gone up from virtually 0 to 0.5%. We haven't even seen the energy costs brought into our inflationary figures yet. That's not till April. So what impact is that going to have? But let's just take a bit of perspective. Let's just remember that some of this inflation is driven because we've had 2 years of low inflation driven by the pandemic. And if we look at the graph here, you can see that actually over the last 10 years, approximately half of the time, inflation has been below the 2% target that the Bank of England has set by the government. And what you see is that, yes, we've got a peak at the moment, a spike, but we all know that will come down. Now, there's some challenges about the costs that are in the marketplace and where will they go. However, over the last 50 years, our inflation and our interest rates have been at the lowest they've been consistently over the last 10 years. So yes, we're seeing a spike, but maybe we just need to all take a deep breath and accept that a bit of inflation is a good thing. Obviously, we need to marry that with growth in the wage structure, but also we need to make sure that we're not increasing and putting inflationary costs into the marketplace. So inflation, let's just keep a bit of perspective. And while we're talking about in perspective, I'm talking about wages. Actually, wages aren't quite rising to the same level of inflation at the moment, which is seeing people sort of talk about the fact that their wages are going backwards in real terms. But I think whenever we talk about wages and individuals, we need to look at the whole package. There's a big area at the moment about the big resign, people moving for more wages. We've seen people in hospitality going and get jobs with places like Amazon, drivers, working in different areas because of the wages they're getting, because of the type of work. The working environment, the whole remuneration package needs to be right. So we need to work hard as employers, not just about giving people wage increases, but actually keeping their whole environment, their whole remuneration package, whether that's healthcare, whether that's pension, whether that's holiday entitlement. What are they actually working in? What is the situation they're working in? Who are they working with? Are people motivated? Do they have a goal and understand what they're trying to achieve? So yes, wages are not going up as fast as inflation, but what are you doing to maintain their whole package, their whole environment? Because that will be equally important for the long term. Is a price increase always right? Now, I've talked a lot about how important it is to maintain your margins, maintain your profits as costs are increasing. So it's not for me to sit and say, don't increase your prices. Far from it. However, if you're a multinational business who has seen growth through the last 2 years, both in turnover and in branded sales and in your profits, is this really the time where you should then use the cost of raw materials to put a bigger increase in to then take the market forward even further? And I'm looking straight at Heineken here, who've put in an increase of 11% of their revenues. Their Heineken brand sales are up by 17%. Their profits rose by 80% over the last year. And yet they're now saying they want to increase their prices because of raw material costs. Now, I'm sure they've got some inflation in their business, but is that right that they are using that to increase their profits further, or even maintaining their profits that are 80% higher than they were the year before? I don't think price increase is always the right answer, and we should be considering our consumers and the marketplace as well. Finally, how many businesses are you running? You're always running the business that you're in today, but actually we should also be considering what the business is going to look like in the future. And here's a great example from Disney, who've just put an executive and leadership team in to oversee the metaverse strategy. So how the changing way that we will interact with individuals, with our friends, our family, but also with our media. Obviously, Facebook changed their name to Meta. They've got a big push, Microsoft and Facebook, on the metaverse. And Disney are therefore running a part of their business to focus on the future. Now, as small business owners, that's a real challenge, because how do you do the day-to-day and run the business of the future? But if you know your goals, you know what you're trying to achieve, then everything you do today builds towards that. So you should be running 2 businesses: the business you're running today and the business you want for the future. And there should be a conversion time in the future that means you're then back to running one. But guess what? Then you'll start focusing on the next level of future. So always be trying to run 2 businesses: the business you're running today and the business you're trying to become. And Disney are doing that with this metaverse and a team of people specifically focused on that. Finally, we've got our business support program and our business resilience and growth programs, both funded by the council. We'd be delighted to speak to anybody who'd be interested in joining us. And that's it for this week. Our contact details. Hope you have a great weekend when it comes. All the very best. Take care.